If you feel comfortable with your chains, let's move on to single crochet. There are a few basic stitches that are used the most. They are single crochet, half double crochet, and treble crochet. First, we're going to focus on single crochet, which is a stitch that we work into our foundation row. These are not technically stitches. These are our chains or our foundation row. So you want to look at it, look at the front of it, and you look for these V's. There's a V, there's a V, there's a V, there's a V, there's a V. That's the front. That's what we'll work into. If you're seeing bumps, you're looking at the back. There's a bump, there's a bump, there's a bump, there's a bump. You see them? That's the back ridge, the back loop, that's the bump. So if you notice you have a set of V's and then some bumps and some V's and some bumps and it doesn't look like this, it's probably because you took your hook out and restarted twisted. You might have started with it turned. So it ends up being twisted where it's some front stitches and then the front stitches are on the bottom and then the front. So whenever you're working, just make sure you look for your V's and put your hook back in so that all your V's are consistently facing the front, okay? So to single crochet, you have to work into the second chain from your hook. What that means is, here's the loop on your hook, right here. There's one V right below it. So directly below your loop on your hook is a V. That's the first chain from your hook. The one after that, you guessed it, the second chain from hook. The next V, the third chain from hook. So single crochet works into the second chain from hook. You will see in your pattern which chain from the hook you're supposed to work on. Eventually you will just know it, but don't be overwhelmed by it now. Follow a pattern, especially some beginner patterns that I'll share with you, and you'll get it all down pat. So identify your loop on your hook and the first chain after your hook. Now look at the next one. That's your second chain from hook, and that's where we're going to work our single crochet. The reason you don't work into ever this first chain is you're trying to build some height so you can turn. We're going to make this nice row. Here's our foundation row. We're going to turn now and work stitches into these. So it's going to be right here. So by turning and avoiding that first chain, we create a little height there for our row. That'll be the end of the row. Okay? So identify your second chain from the hook and look for the center of the V. That's where we're going to work. Let's get our hand set up. Pinky, pointer, pinch. First chain from hook, second chain from hook. We're going to actually put our hook into the center of that V. Boop. Right through. Now this next motion is just like chaining. You yarn over, pull through just your stitch. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2. That's a single crochet. You move on to the next stitch. Where your big hole is, where you're pulling, that's the chain you just worked into. So that's how you know where not to go. You're going to look for the chain after that. So here's where I just worked. Here's the first chain after. Insert your hook into the center of the V. Yarn over, pull through 1. Yarn over, pull through 2. That's another single crochet. Let's do another one. Here's the one I just worked into. So here's the next one. Insert into the center of the V. Notice I use my thumb to guide it. Do what works for you, but just keep your left hand consistent. Yarn over, pull through 1. Yarn over, pull through 2. We just made 3 single crochets, and you can tell by looking at the top. So here's where we're working, right? We're working this way into our foundation row. But if you twist and look on top, 1, 2, 3. Those are your single crochets that you will work into in the next row. Pretty. Okay, so let's keep going for the rest of our row. Then we can turn and keep going. And you guys can make whatever you want. You're fast on your way. Okay, so notice where I hold my work. I hold this, the right side of my work with my left hand to keep it nice and consistent. I actually kind of pinch it with my middle and my thumb. Right, my thumb's does a lot of work, but this holds it just to keep it out of the way and keep it flat. And my left hand is going to hold the left part of my work, so I know where to go. So here's the stitch I just worked into. Here's the next chain. See it? Insert your hook into the center of the V. Yarn over, pull through 1. Yarn over, pull through 2. Next one. Into the center of my stitch. use my thumb a little bit, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Next stitch. The stitch is a little tighter, so I'm going to use my thumb more to pop it through, but you'll get the hang of it. This is my last one of the row. You can see my slip knot right here. Don't work into your slip knot. So the first chain after my slip knot, that's the first chain I made, and that's the last one I'm going to work into for this row. Insert your hook into the center of the V, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Keep working your row until you have every stitch completed. If you don't know which is the last one, if you're not sure if you have enough stitches, remember how many stitches you started with. So I did 11. So since I worked into the second chain from the hook, I won't have 11. I'll have 11 minus that one. So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can see my 10 right here. A lot of students complain that if they knew or they taught themselves that when they make something, the edges look very wonky. The best way to avoid that is to count your stitches. It's very hard in the beginning to know which is the first stitch or which is the last stitch to work into. Count them at the end of every row. Make sure you have a consistent number. So every row I should count and make sure I have 10 stitches. The way to count is you can count this way, your stitches. There's 1 you made, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or you can count the top, count the V's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so pause here until you finish your row. Meet me back. When you're ready, we're going to move on to the next row. The first step you do, just like how we avoided or we skipped the first chain from the hook so we could build height over here, we're going to do the same thing now to build height for the next row. So once you've made your last chain, your last single crochet over here, you actually chain 1. You know how to do that. Chain 1. Okay? Now you're going to turn your work like a book page. Flip it over. So I was working like this. Flip it like a book page and you're here. Before you flip, look and see. Make sure you know where the last stitch you made was. Here's where we just made that chain and here was my last stitch, okay? So when you flip, the first stitch that you're going to work into is the last stitch you made in the previous row. So here was my chain 1, and here was my last stitch that I made in that last row. I'm going to work into that. And I work into that by going under both the whole V. So here's your V from my last stitch of my last row. Put your hook under the whole V, yarn over, pull back through your stitch, yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook. There's your next V. So I just worked there, now I need to work through here, which is under that next V. Insert under your stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Next one. There's the next V. Just worked there, now I work here. Under my stitch, yarn over, pull through my stitch, yarn over, pull through 2. Next V. Insert under, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Next stitch. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Next stitch. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. You're creating these beautiful stitches now, which you will work into in the next row. Okay, let's finish this row together. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. pause here, finish your row, take your time, rewind if you want to find those steps. And then when you get to the last stitch, join me here. And remember, if you're not sure which is the last stitch, see, I see it right there. There's my V. But if you're not sure, the best way is to count. So looking at the top, there's my where I turned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I knew I needed 10, so I know I have one more. And that's the way you avoid wonky edges that look kind of zigzag, by counting your stitches, making sure you work into as many as you need to, and having consistent rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, that was 10 because right there is where I turned. That's it. So now we can keep repeating that and make a million rows. So again, at the end of row, you chain 1, turn it like the page of a book. Identify, there's your chain 1, and there's your last stitch from the previous row. So that's the one you work under. Then you find the next one. Keep practicing, keep going, finish your row. The way that I learned first was I followed a video and I did this. I'm glad you're here for this video because I can show you a lot of things that I've learned along the way. Being self-taught is fun, but it also can be frustrating when you're not taught the correct way, or if you have trouble following, understanding, etc. So repeat this video, rewind it, rewatch it. It's going to take practice, but you're going to get it. And eventually it won't be cumbersome, it won't be awkward. It'll feel very rhythmic. You'll know what to do. You'll be listening to a podcast, a music, listening to a TV show, because I can't look at a show and look at my crochet work. But you'll be doing that and it'll feel very rhythmic, and that's where the fun comes in. So don't give up, keep giving it a try. So when I learned, I followed these videos, and then I made, there's my last stitch, by the way. There's where I turned. There's my last V. That's the one I work into. I was learning the single crochet just this way, the exact same way, building a little swatch, right? Building this little rectangle of rows. And then I just kept going. All of a sudden I realized I had like 18 inches of single crochet rows. I ran out of yarn, so I went and got some yarn and learned how to join it to start a new color. And I ended up making a scarf because I just kept going. And I still have that scarf. I should go grab it. It's not cute, but I'll save it forever. Sometimes my boys wear it when they're playing in the snow. But you're proud of it, right? It's something to be proud of, that you made that many rows and you kept practicing and you stuck with something that feels difficult and feels uncomfortable at first. So I'd recommend doing that. I recommend keep going with what you have until you have 4 feet, 3 feet, however long you want. I think actually an adult scarf is like 72 to 84 inches or something very long. You don't have to do that, especially in single crochet, because these rows are really small. The next stitches we get to will be taller, so a project will go by faster. But just keep going. Just keep making something long so that you feel, until you feel really comfortable with it and you understand how to count your stitches, how to turn, how to chain one at the end of the row, etc. If you feel still very unclear, rewatch this video. There's no shame in that. I did that over and over. I paused, I rewound, I kept trying. It didn't make sense until it did. So that's what I'm hoping for you. Follow these steps, keep going, make a really long, wonky scarf that you'll be proud of for the rest of your life.